All right, so what I wanted to cover here is how to make a braided rope like this. Okay, so on some of these crates, there are different kinds of ways that they're lifted, maybe a hole that's in there or something. This particular one's got some ropes in there, which is kind of nice organic kind of feel. So I'll show you how to do that. Lots of ways this can be done, but this is how I'm going to do it. Okay, so let me see. Okay, let's face the left. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a spline. So I'm going to turn off my shading and I'm just going to draw a line. Now I have a tendency when I'm doing this to just draw kind of chunky. I don't worry about, a lot of people want to do this kind of thing. Okay, I don't really work that way. Okay, it's going to come straight out, and so I'm going to just draw a line kind of like this. And then I'm going to put, say, maybe a point here and a point there. Then I'm going to kind of mirror this over there. It doesn't have to be perfect because the rope wouldn't be perfect. Okay, something kind of like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the points off this line, this one and this one, and I'm going to move those back. And then I'm going to scale those to their center so they're kind of in line. So it's kind of like from the top. These kind of go back like that. And let's go ahead and let's move it out here. So we're kind of penetrating in that. Okay, then now all I got to do is to go to the vertices, and then I can just right click and go up here and just tell them to be smooth, and that's smooth out. And then, you can do these however you want. You can come back and put more points in here if you want to. So you can always come back in and click refine over here, and I can put another point in here if I wanted to. So this all can be, manipulated. Okay, so we have something like this. Now, I can go in here and make this a renderable spline and give it some thickness and such. And that looks pretty good. But what I really want is a more twisted kind of look. I want it to be a twisted kind of thing like this. So I'm going to show you a different thing. All right, so we're not going to make that renderable. Okay, so what we're going to do here is to come over, and I'm going to draw another line, and I'm just going to draw this one straight. And I want this line to be approximately about the same length as that line, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, I'm going to make this in renderable. Now, by default, let me get a shader on this. By default, this will be, I think it's set for 8, could be 12, I don't remember. Now, I don't want to get this too thick because it's going to be one of 3 strands. So I'm going to make this, and there's going to be 3 pieces, okay? Now, the other thing that we're going to do, and I'm going to make this bigger so it's easier to see it, we're going to put a modifier on this. And it's called a normalized spline. And what this allows me to do, I'm going to turn on show knots right here. And I'm going to go knot count, and then it's going to allow me to control how many subdivisions are in this. Okay, so I'm going to go with, I don't know, 20, oh no, 21. Something like that. I'll be able to adjust this later. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my line. Now this button right here is show end result. So as soon as I go here, it's turning that off, but if I click here, it'll show me up there. And so now I'm going to make this so that it's smaller. Okay, so now I want to come up and look at it from the top. And I'm going to turn this down to 5. 5 is probably about the smallest amount you can have, and when you put a smoothing on it, it'll still seem to be round. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and I'm going to make a copy of it and place it over here. And I want this to be an instance. That's kind of the magic thing, and it needs to be an instance. And then I'm going to make another one and put over here. Okay. Now, we kind of want these to kind of overlap. You know, we don't want a gap between them. We kind of want them to overlap, and it doesn't matter how they align. We're gonna twist them some. Okay, so you can rotate this if you want. You know, to make them point in specific directions. That's fine. So maybe something like this. Okay, now I want these to act together, so I'm going to grab all of them, and then I'm going to put an edit poly on this so that they'll appear to our system as one object. Okay. So with those picked, I'm going to put a modifier on here. Now I'm going to type in path. And there's two of them. There's world space path, and there's this path deform. Their path deform is what we're wanting. This is object level. This is world space. There are times I might use the world space, but for what we're doing right here, I'm going to use this one, which is object space. Now, as soon as I do that, it's putting a modifier on here. And what we're going to do is it's going to take this and it's going to wrap it around a spline. So I'm going to click right here where this says none, and I'm going to pick this spline and it's going to move it over to it. And let's go ahead and we'll just hide this for right now. Okay, now once it puts it over here, okay, then I'm going to need to adjust it, and your percent right here is going to need to be 50%, and then that's going to pretty much center it on that. Okay, now sometimes according to how long it is, you might need to do this stretch, okay, where I need to maybe stretch, this is stretching the length of this. And so what we got here, 1 is a little bit too much, 9, so maybe 0.94, yeah. That's pretty much, now that's lining up with the end of that. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect lined up with it, but you know, that's, now we're wrapping this. Now, another thing that we can do now is this gives us all kinds of options. Now, sometimes this axis may be wrong. Okay, so it comes in, you're going to get something like this, like, oh my gosh, or this, it's going, whoa, okay, so it's the axis. You get to find the right one to go along the spline. But now what's cool I can do is I can actually rotate this. So if I don't like which side of it's pointing forward, I can rotate this. But more importantly is I can put a twist on it. So now I can come in here and I can twist this however much I want to twist it to get this kind of a twisted look like this. Now, this is going to look very faceted. So what we're going to end up doing is put a smooth modifier. Now, smooth, I don't want to do like a mesh smooth. I don't want to subdivide it. I just want to smooth it. So smooth, we're just doing the smoothing group. So we'll auto smooth, and this will need to be 180 degrees, and then it'll smooth these. Okay, so go back to my path deform. I think I'm gonna twist it a little bit more. Now, here's the kind of the trick of reason I did this the way that I did it is I can go back to this normalized spline right here, and I can come in here and I can adjust how many knots are in it. Okay, because I did all these as instances, then I can come back and say, well, you know, I want fewer polys, or I want it to be a little bit more smooth, so I can do it like so. And so you can actually be sure that you're turning, you know, this end result on. And then I can sit there. And I would encourage you to always have your wireframe on when you do this, because you can accidentally you can freeze your machine up if I put, you know, 2000 in here, you know. So we're just putting a little bit. So since it's low poly, we want it to be pretty much optimized. I mean, initially I'd put 20, you know, but you can decide, you know, how many that you want. Okay. The other thing that's kind of cool that I can do too, now this will throw it off initially a little bit, but I can come back down here to my line and I can change the thickness of it too. Okay. So the nature of the way that I built this meant that I have a lot of control after the fact. Okay. And there you go. There's a twisted rope. Okay, then the last thing I want to talk about is having mapping coordinates on this. So a spline has a unique attribute that I can go down here to the line, okay, and I can tell it to generate mapping coordinates, and then I want to click this one that says real map size. I want both of these on, okay, and I just have to do it to one of these because they're instances of each other. What this is going to allow me to do is it's going to flatten this line out to create a mapping coordinate for it. Okay, so now I want to pick all of these. Now when I drag and pick these, you'll notice it's grayed out, and that's because it's also picking the line that was underneath it. Okay, so you need to make sure that you don't select the this line. I only want these picked. Now you'll see all this stuff is italicized. That means they're instances. Okay, so now what I can do is I can put an unwrap on this, and I want to make sure I put it on all of them at the same time, and then I can open up the editor. Okay, now this thing is huge, so what you want to do is to come in here and click this button right here, pack, and then it'll pack them all in here. And so here's all your mapping coordinates, one for each one of these. Okay. Now, we want to relax this. We want to go to polyangles just to double check. Okay. So the scale of those are correct. Now I can come back in if I want to and change, you know, where the seam is, but because these are spiraling, it really doesn't matter where that seam is. Okay, and then you can turn off your map scenes up here. So now you have mapping coordinates that I can actually put a texture on this, and it's already mapped correctly. Another aspect that I want you to be aware of is this has what's called construction history. So if I go back to the original spline that I wrapped this on, so I'm going back to this original spline, and I go to its sub-object selection of its vertices. Okay, so it's got a set of vertices in here. I can go back to that and I can actually adjust these. Where's one? There's one. Then the rope will adjust with it. Okay, so this makes it nice too, because I could make, you know, several of these, and I could adjust them to look different from one end to the other just by going in and adjusting that underlying spline. Okay, so it's a very kind of flexible system that allows you to do a lot of adjusting to get kind of unique aspects. A couple more things I need to cover is if we need to move this around. Okay, so we need to put this, we need to position this. You don't move your objects, you move this line that they're attached to. So this is how you move them around. So, we have a tendency to think, oh, I need to go in here and move this. Okay, no, that'll move it off the line. Okay, we want to move the line. It's bound to the line right now, so as I move it around, then just move the line. Okay, then the last thing that you're going to want to do is at some point you need to convert this just down to an editable poly. Okay, we need to get rid of all this stuff. So I would say the first thing you want to do is to make a copy. Okay, so make a clone of this. Okay, and then let's just go ahead and hide our original ones here so we don't get those. All right, so here's the thing. So now if you take this and you right click and go convert to an editable poly, okay, it's going to convert it to an editable mesh, okay, which is okay. Okay, but if you, and we can do this to all of them, if you pick them up here and then you go in here and you go collapse all, okay, now they'll make them into edit polys. Okay, and now they're independent, so I can't go back to the original line and adjust them anymore because these are just dead polygons now. But this is what you would want. This is what you would put into the game engine, is this. Okay, and at this point I could attach them all together too as one thing, and that's what you would actually put into your game engine. And of course we're using Sketchfab, so something like that. And then it gives you, the ability to go back at some point and go back to your original stuff and make adjustments on those. Okay. Hope that helped you. All right. Thank you very much.